AITA for freezing my credit after my brother took out a loan in my name? I'm Kimberly, 35, and for most of my adult life, I was the daughter my parents called when something needed to be fixed quietly. A utility bill that had somehow slipped through the cracks. A late fee my father swore was caused by the mail. A refrigerator part my mother said they couldn't afford until next month. A ride to an appointment. A car insurance payment for my older brother Derek, because he had hit a rough patch. The rough patch lasted most of his adult life. I kept a small spiral notebook in my kitchen drawer. The cover had coffee stains and a strip of tape along the spine. Inside were dates, amounts, and short notes. March 4th, Mom's electric bill, $186. April 19th, Derek's insurance, $240. June 2nd, refrigerator repair, $312. I didn't write any of it down because I expected repayment. I wrote it down because every time I felt resentful, my mother Linda would say, "You're exaggerating. We barely ask you for anything." The notebook kept me from doubting my own memory. Derek was 38, 3 years older than me, and the person my parents described as someone who had never gotten a fair break. If he quit a job, the manager had been disrespectful. If he missed a payment, the company had changed the due date. If he borrowed money and didn't return it, he had planned to, but something more important came up. I was the stable one. That word did a lot of work in my family. Stable meant I was expected to understand. Stable meant I could wait. Stable meant I shouldn't take things personally because Derek was sensitive. Stable meant that when there was only enough money, attention, or patience for one child, it went to him. My parents weren't loud, obvious villains. They were more subtle than that. They made unfairness sound practical. "Your brother is trying," my mother would say. "Let's not make this into a big thing," my father Paul would add. Then I would pay whatever needed paying because the alternative was a 3-day campaign of calls, sighs, and messages about how family helped family. The only person who ever seemed uncomfortable with the arrangement was my grandmother Ruth. She died at 87. Before that, she had watched our family dynamic for decades without making speeches about it. She noticed things, then waited until we were alone to say something small and sharp. Once, after I covered a repair on Derek's car, she handed me $20 for gas. I tried to give it back. "I'm fine, Grandma." "I know," she said. "That's why everyone keeps taking from you." Another time, while we were folding dish towels at her kitchen table, she told me, "Keep your own bank account private." I laughed because it sounded so specific. "I do." "Good. And don't co-sign anything." "I won't." She pressed a towel flat with both hands and looked at me over her glasses. "People who love you can still get used to taking from you." I remembered that sentence later. At the time, I thought she was being protective in the way older relatives often are. I didn't realize she was making plans. 3 weeks after Ruth's funeral, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. The man on the line asked me to verify the last 4 digits of my social security number before discussing an account. I refused and asked what institution he was calling from. He gave me the bank's name and a general callback number I could independently verify. I hung up, found the bank's official number on an old statement from an account I actually did have years ago, and called. After transferring me twice, a representative named Calvin came on the line. "I'm calling about an account associated with your information," he said after verifying my identity through the bank's normal process. "What kind of account?" "A personal credit line." "I don't have a personal credit line with you." There was a pause, followed by the careful tone people use when they can't tell you everything yet. "The account reference ends in 4187. A payment is past due. The mailing address we have on file is not the address you just confirmed." He read the street name without the number. It was an apartment where I had lived more than 6 years earlier. My stomach tightened. "What email is on the account?" "I can confirm whether an email you provide matches." I gave him mine. "It does not match exactly." "How is it different?" "I'm limited in what I can disclose until a formal dispute is opened." I closed my eyes and pressed 2 fingers against my forehead. "Can you tell me when the account was opened?" He gave me a month from the previous year. I hadn't applied for anything with that bank during that month. I hadn't applied for any loan at all. Calvin explained the first steps for reporting possible fraud. He didn't accuse anyone. He didn't tell me who had submitted the application. He gave me a case number and told me what documents I would need. I wrote the number on a yellow sticky note and placed it beside my laptop. Then my mother called. I almost didn't answer, but grief had made our family communication strange and unpredictable. I thought she might be calling about Ruth's belongings. Instead, she said, "I need you to meet us at the bank at 4. Why? There are some estate papers that need to be signed. What estate papers? Just something to simplify the distribution. Email them to me." She exhaled sharply. "Kimberly, we have an appointment. Your father and Derek are already rearranging their day. That doesn't explain what I'm signing. Your grandmother would not want everyone fighting over paperwork. Then send me the paperwork. Why do you always have to make things difficult?" That sentence had worked on me for years. It usually made me stop asking questions because I wanted to prove I wasn't difficult. This time, I looked at the fraud case number beside my laptop. What bank? She named the same bank Calvin had just called about. I agreed to meet them, but I didn't promise to sign anything. When I pulled into the parking lot, my parents were standing beside my father's sedan. Derek leaned against his truck with his arms crossed. He looked irritated before I even got out of my car. My mother walked toward me holding a thin folder. "You're late. It's 3:57. The notary is waiting. You said this was estate paperwork." "It is." She pulled out a document and pressed it into my hand. The first page had several blocks of dense text. The title included the words "Waiver of Beneficiary Interest" and "Release of Claim." My mother pointed to a signature line. "Sign it before you embarrass this family." I looked at her, then back at the page. Why would signing something I haven't read prevent embarrassment? Derek made a disgusted sound. "Because normal people don't turn everything into a courtroom." I ignored him and read the first paragraph. The language was formal, but the meaning was clear enough. I would be giving up an interest in Ruth's estate and releasing future claims connected to the distribution. "This doesn't simplify paperwork," I said. "This removes me." My mother's expression changed. Not into surprise. Into annoyance that I had understood it. "It moves your portion where it needs to go so the house is protected." "What house?" "Our house," she said. "Your grandmother's interest affects the property, and we can't have complications right now." My father stared at the pavement. I turned to him. "Dad, what exactly am I being asked to give up?" "Kim, let's not do this here." "Then you shouldn't have brought me here." Derek pushed away from his truck. "It's just paperwork. Sign it and this all goes away." "What goes away?" No one answered. That silence was the first moment I understood the bank call and the waiver were connected. I raised my phone and took a picture of the first page. My mother snatched the document back. "Do not photograph private family papers. They have my name on them. You are making this ugly." "No," I said. "I'm reading." She lowered her voice because a couple was walking toward the entrance. "Your father and I could lose everything because you suddenly decided to become suspicious. Why would refusing to give away my inheritance make you lose everything?" Her eyes filled with tears almost instantly. It was impressive in a way. My mother could cry without losing control of her voice. "After everything we have done for you, this is how you act?" Derek stepped closer. "You act like you're better than everyone." "I'm not signing anything in a parking lot. The notary is inside," he snapped. "Then the notary can go home." I got back into my car. My father finally looked at me through the open window. "Please think about what this will do to your mother." I put the car in reverse. "Send me every document in writing." By the time I reached home, I had 4 missed calls from my mother, 2 from Derek, and a text from my father. "Please don't make decisions while everyone is emotional." I stared at it for a long time. They had arranged a bank appointment, brought a waiver, invited a notary, and refused to send me the document in advance. But I was the one making emotional decisions. I didn't reply. That night, Derek left a voicemail. First, his voice was controlled. "Kim, Mom is a mess. You need to stop treating this like some conspiracy. Nobody is stealing from you. Grandma's estate is tied up with the house, and we need your signature to keep things moving." Then his tone shifted. "You've always had this thing where you think being the responsible one makes you better. doesn't. Just means you got lucky. If you drag this out and something happens to mom and dad, that's on you. I saved the voicemail and downloaded a transcript. The next morning my Aunt Jo called. Jo was my mother's younger sister. She wasn't usually involved in our arguments, which made the call more effective. Your mother says you're trying to take the house. I'm not trying to take anything. She says there's an inheritance issue and you're refusing to cooperate. She tried to make me sign away my beneficiary rights in a bank parking lot. Jo went quiet for a second. She said it was a routine waiver. Routine for whom? Kimberly, your mother is grieving. So am I. I know, but your parents are older. They can't handle a legal fight. I didn't start one. She says you're forcing them into a corner. Did she mention the document she wouldn't let me read? Jo sighed. I'm not calling to argue. I'm asking you to be reasonable. That was another family word with a flexible definition. Reasonable meant doing what my mother wanted before she cried harder. I am being reasonable, I said. I'm asking for copies. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and froze my credit with all 3 major credit bureaus. Each confirmation went into a folder I named Credit Dispute. I called Calvin using the bank's official number and opened a formal fraud dispute. He walked me through the process. Do you have reason to believe a family member may have used your information? He asked. I didn't yesterday, I said. I do now. He told me the application used my old address. The email attached to it looked like mine but included an extra middle initial and a number. It was close enough to seem legitimate at a glance and different enough that I would never receive notifications. I asked for signature verification and copies of everything I was entitled to receive after submitting the dispute documents. He reminded me that the bank would determine whether the application was valid and that I should preserve any communication related to the account. I wrote everything down. The fraud case number stayed on the sticky note beside my laptop. Under it, I added the date, Calvin's extension, and the time of the call. Then I texted my mother one question. Did anyone use my personal information on a loan application? She called immediately. I let it ring. She called again. Then my father called. Then Derek. I didn't answer any of them. 20 minutes later, my mother sent a text. We only used your name because there was no other way. Derek couldn't qualify and the bank was going to deny the whole thing. We were going to fix it before it ever affected you. This was for the family, not for him. I read it twice. There are moments when confirmation doesn't feel satisfying. Feels cold. For most of the previous day, part of me had been searching for an innocent explanation. A clerical error. A mixed file. An old application revived by mistake. My mother had just removed every innocent possibility in 4 sentences. I took screenshots. I emailed them to myself. I saved the full conversation as a PDF and backed it up. Then I replied, do not contact me by phone about this again. Send all information about the loan and grandma's estate in writing. Her response came less than a minute later. Your brother made a mistake. You are making a choice. I didn't answer. That afternoon, I called an attorney named Andrea. A friend had used her for an estate issue and said she was direct without being theatrical. I brought the photo of the waiver, the bank notice, my mother's text, Derek's voicemail transcript, and the sticky note with the fraud case number. Andrea read everything without reacting much. She asked a few questions, then placed the waiver photo on the desk between us. This document does not speed up your inheritance, she said. It releases it. So I wasn't paranoid. No. You were late to a trap. The sentence landed harder than I expected. She asked whether I had received a full copy of Ruth's will. I had not. Any estate inventory? No. Formal notice of my beneficiary interest? No. Had anyone told me the value or nature of the share I was being asked to waive? No. Andrea leaned back. Do not attend another notary appointment. Do not sign anything they send directly. From now on, keep communication written. She sent a formal request for the estate documents and a letter instructing my parents and Derek to communicate with me through her regarding the waiver and the loan. 2 days later, my mother texted me anyway. You hired a lawyer against your own parents? I forwarded it to Andrea without responding. Then I opened my banking app and reviewed every automatic payment I had set up for my family. My parents' secondary phone line, their internet bill, a small monthly amount toward their utility account, a contribution to an insurance policy Derek had promised to take over 6 months earlier. None of the payments were large by themselves. That was how they had remained invisible for so long. $40 here, $90 there, $120 when something was late. Together, they added up to several $100s a month. I canceled all of them. Then I sent one written message to my parents and Derek. Effective today, I will no longer pay bills for anyone involved in this situation. I will not provide money while my identity and inheritance are being investigated. All communication goes through Andrea. My father replied first. This is going too far. My mother sent 6 messages in a row. The phone account is in your name. Your father needs that line for appointments. The electric bill is due next week. You cannot punish us because you are angry at Derek. Family helps family. I looked at that last sentence for a while. Then I blocked incoming calls but left text messages open so I could preserve anything they wrote. 3 nights later, my doorbell camera notified me that someone was on the porch. My mother stood closest to the door. My father was behind her with his hands in his jacket pockets. I opened the inner door but left the storm door locked. What are you doing here? My mother's face was already wet. We need to talk without that lawyer controlling everything. She is not controlling anything. You won't answer your phone. I asked for written communication. You are going to make us lose everything. My father stepped forward. Kim, can we come inside? No. My mother stared at me as if I had slapped her. You won't let your own parents into your home? Not while you're here to pressure me about a loan opened in my name. It was not opened in your name, she said quickly. Your information was used to support it. That is the same problem with different wording. Nobody intended to hurt you. Then why didn't anyone ask me? Because you would have said no. The answer came so fast she couldn't take it back. My father closed his eyes. I said, that should have ended the idea. You don't understand what was at stake, she said. The house, Derek's debts, everything your father and I have worked for. Derek's debts are not my identity. Are you really recording your own mother? She asked, suddenly looking at the camera above the door. No. The camera records whoever comes to my door to pressure me about fraud. Her crying slowed. She glanced toward the driveway and lowered her voice. Do you want the neighbors to hear you call your family criminals? I want you to leave. My father tried one more time. Let's all calm down. I am calm. Your mother is under a lot of stress. So am I. Nobody was trying to hurt you. I did not say you were trying. I said you did. My mother's expression hardened. You always have to have the last word. I closed the door. My hand shook afterward, but I didn't reopen it. Andrea obtained the estate packet the following week. She called and asked me to come to her office. The folder on her desk was thicker than I expected. It contained Ruth's will, an estate summary, correspondence, and a sealed envelope with my name written in my grandmother's handwriting. I recognized the way she formed the capital K. She always made the top arm too long. Andrea slid the will toward me first. Ruth had left me a separate cash share and a small beneficiary interest connected to family property that had originally come through her side of the family. The share wasn't enormous, but it was significant enough to matter. More importantly, it was mine alone. My parents knew. There were emails showing my mother had contacted the estate office before I was ever given the documents. In one, she asked whether I could sign a simple waiver, allowing my interest to be redirected so the family would not face unnecessary complications. The estate representative had replied that I would need to receive full disclosure and should consider independent legal advice. My mother had ignored both parts. Andrea tapped the sealed envelope. This was included with the original estate materials. I opened it carefully. The letter was short. Ruth's handwriting shook more near the bottom than at the top. Kimberly, you have carried things that were never yours because people knew you would not let them fall. I have watched this happen for a long time. What I left you is yours. It is not a family emergency fund. It is not Derek's second chance. It is not proof that you love anyone. Do not let them make you feel cruel for keeping what I chose to give you. Love, Grandma. I read it once, then again. For years, I had wondered whether I was selfish for noticing the pattern, whether I was keeping score, whether I was too sensitive. Ruth had seen it clearly enough to put protections into her will. I cried in Andrea's office, but not loudly. It was more like my body had decided to release something without asking me. I thought she was just warning me, I said. She was, Andrea replied. And she documented why. The grief I felt was complicated. I was grateful Ruth had protected me, but furious that she had known protection was necessary. Andrea showed me another document. It was a copy of a letter my mother had received confirming my separate share and the existence of the personal letter. She knew about the letter? I asked. Yes. She hid it. Yes. That betrayal felt different from the loan. The loan was reckless and illegal. Hiding Ruth's letter was intimate. My mother had not only tried to take the money, she had tried to erase the one person who had told me I was allowed to keep it. A few days later, the bank sent an initial packet in response to the fraud dispute. They didn't provide every detail at once, but there was enough to confirm the application had been submitted electronically using my personal information, my old address, and the altered email. The signature attached to one verification page was not mine. It looked like someone had practiced. The K was close. The rest was not. There was also a summary of disbursements and transactions associated with the credit line. My parents had insisted the money was necessary to protect their house and cover urgent family obligations. Some of it had gone toward overdue household expenses. Some went to balances connected to Derek. Then I found the other charges. A large truck repair. Electronics purchased over 2 days. Hotel and restaurant charges from a weekend Derek had described on social media months earlier as a trip that was already paid for. I called him from Andrea's office with her permission, using speakerphone. She recorded the date and time in her notes but did not speak. He answered on the second ring. What do you want? I have the transaction summary. Silence. So the family emergency had a hotel receipt. You don't know the whole story. I know the dates and amounts. The truck repair was necessary. For what? For work. You told Mom you had no shifts that month. That doesn't mean the truck wasn't necessary. And the electronics? I was replacing stuff I needed. The weekend trip? His breathing changed. That was already booked. With money from a loan using my identity. I was going to pay it back. You were already late. Because you froze everything. The account was past due before I knew it existed. He raised his voice. You think you're so smart because you keep receipts. You've always done that. You act like every little thing someone owes you is evidence. I kept receipts because everyone kept telling me nothing happened. This was for Mom and Dad. Not every dollar. You are trying to ruin me over paperwork. No. I'm refusing to sign paperwork that would let you ruin me. He hung up. 10 minutes later, he left another voicemail. If this blows up my life, I hope you're proud. You know I can't handle charges. You know what this will do to me. If you were any kind of sister, you'd fix it before it gets there. I saved that one too. Jo called again the next evening. Her tone was sharper than before. Your mother says the bank froze access to funds because of your complaint. I disputed a loan I did not authorize. She says you knew the family was using your credit. That is false. She says you agreed verbally months ago. That is also false. Kimberly, I don't know who to believe anymore. I almost said that wasn't my problem. Instead, I asked for her email address even though I already had it. What are you sending? Enough. I didn't send her the entire bank packet or every private document. I sent the photo of the waiver, my mother's written admission, the estate email showing my mother had asked about a waiver before telling me the terms, a short excerpt from Ruth's letter, and several pages from my notebook showing years of bills I had paid. Jo called 20 minutes later. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, I didn't know there was a loan. I know. I didn't know your mother admitted using your name. I know. She told me you were trying to force a sale of the house. I have never said that. Jo's voice dropped. Your grandmother said something to me once. She said, Kimberly is the only one who doesn't ask me for anything. I thought she was just praising you. She was warning you. I think she was. Then Joe said, I owe you an apology. I repeated things I should have questioned. I didn't rush to make her feel better. Thank you. I can talk to your mother. No. Please do not negotiate for me. I wasn't going to. Please don't ask me to make this easier for them. She was quiet again. All right. Andrea scheduled a meeting to address the estate waiver and the loan dispute. It wasn't a courtroom and no one was going to be arrested in the office. The purpose was to put the positions in writing, confirm that I would not waive my inheritance, and give my parents and Derek a final chance to provide documents or explanations before the estate moved forward and the bank investigation continued. My mother treated it like a trial anyway. The morning of the meeting, my father texted me. Could you sign for now and fight about the details later? Your mother hasn't slept. I replied in writing. No. A waiver cannot be treated as temporary. He answered. We thought you would understand once everything was explained. I wrote. You still have not explained why my identity was used without permission. He did not respond. Derek left another voicemail. If my life blows up, that's on you. For the first time, I called him back immediately. No, I said when he answered. The signature you couldn't get honestly is on you. Then I hung up. Andrea's conference room was plain. A long table, 6 chairs, a pitcher of water, and a box of tissues near the wall. My mother sat closest to the tissues. My father sat beside her, stiff and pale. Derek took the chair across from me. Joe sat near the end of the table after asking if she could attend as a family witness. Andrea opened the meeting by stating that no one would interrupt while documents were being reviewed. My mother interrupted her 2 times in the first minute. This is unnecessary, she said. We are grieving, and Kimberly has turned a family misunderstanding into a legal attack. Andrea did not change her tone. Linda, you will have time to respond. Derek leaned back in his chair. She wants the money. That's all this is. I looked at him. I did not know the money existed until you tried to make me sign it away. You've always been greedy. That almost made me laugh. I opened my kitchen notebook and placed it on the table. Greedy people usually don't spend years paying everyone else's bills. My mother pointed at the notebook. That is sick. You kept a record of helping your own family. I kept a record because you kept saying it barely happened. Andrea raised a hand. We are going to proceed in order. She laid out copies of the relevant documents. The loan notice tied to my identity. The application using my old address. The altered email. The signature that was not mine. My mother's text saying they had used my name because there was no other way. The waiver of beneficiary interest. The estate correspondence showing my mother had asked about redirecting my share before giving me the full will. Ruth's letter. The transaction summary showing Derek's spending. Finally, selected pages from my notebook documenting years of payments. Derek's face changed when the transaction summary appeared. You don't have the right to show everyone my private purchases. You made them with money attached to my name, I said. The truck repair was necessary. And the hotel? That was one weekend. The electronics? I needed them. You said every dollar went to Mom and Dad. I said it was for the family. You are part of the family, I said. That doesn't make every purchase an emergency. My mother picked up Ruth's letter and shook it slightly. Your grandmother did not understand what she was doing at the end. I felt something in me settle. She understood exactly what you would do. That is cruel. She wrote this because she expected you to call me cruel. My mother looked at Joe for support. Joe stared at the table. Joe, you know how confused Mom could get. Joe finally looked up. She was not confused when she spoke to me. My mother's expression tightened. This is not your business. You made it my business when you told me Kimberly was trying to steal your house. I never used the word steal. You said she was taking what belonged to the family. It does belong to the family. Andrea stepped in. The estate documents do not support that statement. Ruth left a separate share to Kimberly. My mother started crying. This is what she wanted. She wanted to divide us. No, I said. She wanted to stop you from dividing my future into pieces and handing them to Derek. Derek slammed his palm on the table. Stop acting like you're some victim. You've always had it easier. How? You have good credit. You have savings. You don't have people coming after you. I have good credit because I pay my bills. You think that makes you better? No. It makes my identity useful to you. My father flinched. Andrea turned to him. Paul, the bank application and Linda's written statement indicate that more than one person knew Kimberly's information was being used. What was your involvement? My mother spoke before he could. He was not involved. Andrea looked at my father. I asked Paul. He stared at his hands. Let's all calm down. No, I said. Answer her. Kim, did you know Derek couldn't qualify? He swallowed. Yes. My mother snapped her head toward him. Paul. He kept staring at the table. We were under pressure. Derek had debts and the house expenses were behind. The bank would not approve enough under his name. Did you know my information was used? He rubbed one hand over his jaw. We thought once it was done, you would come around. The room went still. I asked, once what was done? He looked at me then, but only for a second. The loan. And the waiver? No one was trying to take anything from you. That is not an answer. My mother's tears stopped. Paul, don't let her twist this. I pushed the waiver toward him. Did you know this would release my inheritance rights? We were told it would simplify the property issue. By whom? He said nothing. Mom. She folded her arms. We were protecting the house. By taking the share Grandma left me. You do not need it the way we do. There it was. Not denial. Not confusion. Not grief. Need. In my family, their need had always been treated as a claim on whatever I had. I closed the notebook. You didn't need my help, I said. You needed my silence. My mother shook her head. You are enjoying this. I am not. You hired a lawyer. You brought records. You got the bank involved. Because you used my identity. We were going to fix it. Before or after the past due notice? Derek pointed at me. You can stop the investigation. I can cooperate with it. I can't make the facts disappear. If you sign the waiver, we can restructure things. Andrea spoke before I could. The waiver will not resolve the fraud dispute. Derek looked at her with open hatred. No one asked you. Kimberly did, Andrea said. My mother reached for my hand across the table. I moved mine away. Please, she said. Your brother made a mistake. You are making a choice that could destroy him. He made several choices. He can't afford legal problems. Neither can I. You have always landed on your feet. That is why you thought you could knock me down. My father whispered, Kim, please. I looked at all three of them. You weren't asking me to save the family. You were asking me to take the fall. Derek stood so fast his chair scraped the floor. If my truck gets taken, if I lose my job, if I get charged, I am done with you. I stayed seated. You used my name because your own was not enough. You were done with me before I knew there was a problem. Andrea told him to sit down or leave. He left. The meeting ended with my written refusal to sign the waiver. Andrea confirmed that the estate would proceed according to Ruth's will. She also sent the bank an updated evidence packet, including my mother's admission and my father's statement from the meeting notes. My parents left without saying goodbye. Jo stayed behind. I'm sorry, she said. I know. I should have called you before believing her. Yes. She accepted that without defending herself. Over the next several weeks, consequences arrived in ordinary envelopes. The bank confirmed the fraud investigation was active. Collection activity tied to the disputed portion was paused while they reviewed the application, signature, account access, and disbursements. I wasn't magically cleared overnight, but the account stopped appearing as an unquestioned debt I was expected to pay. Andrea kept copies of every certified letter and receipt. I kept the originals in a folder beside the credit freeze confirmations. My parents' phone line was suspended after they missed a payment. My mother sent me a message blaming me for making it difficult for my father to receive appointment reminders. I replied once, "You were notified that I would no longer pay the account. Please move the line to your own billing." She called me heartless. Their utility account received a late notice after years of me quietly covering shortfalls. My father paid it from their own funds and sent me a vague message. "I'm sorry things reached this point. Your mother and Derek were scared. I should have handled it differently." It was the kind of apology that floated around responsibility without touching it. I replied, "You knowingly allowed my identity to be used. Differently is not specific enough for me to discuss reconciliation." He didn't try again. Derek's access to the disputed credit line was frozen. Without new money and without me covering his insurance contribution, he fell behind on the truck. At first, he told relatives I had stolen his livelihood. Then Joe corrected the story privately whenever she heard it. She didn't make a dramatic announcement or demand everyone choose sides. She simply said, "Kimberly did not authorize the loan." Linda admitted they used her information. Ruth left Kimberly a separate share. Some relatives apologized. Others adjusted their criticism. They stopped saying I was greedy and started saying I was too harsh. My parents were older. Derek was still my brother. The bank investigation could have serious consequences. Why couldn't I not settle it quietly? Because quiet was how they had done it. Derek eventually sold several electronics, and then lost the truck after he couldn't keep up with the payments and related costs. Whether it was formally repossessed or surrendered voluntarily depended on which relative told the story. I did not ask. He left me angry voicemails from new numbers until Andrea sent a formal notice that further threatening contact would be documented. After that, he switched to emails. "You ruined my life." I saved them and did not respond. The estate moved forward. I kept the inheritance Ruth left me. The property interest was handled according to the will and the applicable estate process, not according to the parking lot waiver my mother had tried to force into my hand. I did not take my parents' house. I did not demand anyone be homeless. I did not post documents online or send a public message to the extended family. I simply stopped signing, paying, and lying for them. 2 months after the meeting, my mother came to my door alone. The doorbell camera showed her standing on the porch with her arms folded tightly against her chest. I opened the inner door and left the storm door locked again. "We need to talk," she said. "Send it through Andrea. I am your mother. That is not a legal process. Do you hear yourself?" "Yes." She looked up at the camera. "Can you turn that off?" "No." Her mouth tightened. "The bank contacted us again. They want statements from your father. Derek says they are treating him like a criminal. They are investigating an account opened with my information. You can tell them it was a misunderstanding." "It was not. You can say you gave permission verbally." "I did not." Her eyes filled. "Do you want your brother charged?" "I want the bank to determine what happened." "You know what happened?" "Yes." "Then why involve strangers?" "Because the people involved are my family." She stared at me. "That makes no sense." "It makes perfect sense. You expected the word family to stop me from protecting myself. Your grandmother would hate this." I almost admired the nerve it took to use Ruth against me after hiding her letter. Grandma wrote me a letter because she expected this. My mother's face changed. For a second, the sadness disappeared and anger took its place. She did not know the pressure we were under. She knew the pressure you put on me. She favored you at the end. No. She protected me at the end. My mother stepped closer to the door. "Please don't make this official." It became official when my name went on the application. "You are choosing paperwork over your family." "No. I'm choosing the truth over the version that protects you." She waited for me to soften. I used to soften when she cried. I used to hear family helps family, and immediately search for a way to make her problem smaller, even if it made mine bigger. This time I did not open the door. "Any further discussion goes through Andrea," I said. Then I closed it. My credit remains frozen unless I personally lift it. The disputed account is being separated from my valid credit history, while the bank completes its process. I check my reports regularly, save every letter, and keep the fraud case number where I can find it. I also still have the kitchen notebook. For a while I thought about throwing it away. I didn't want to live as someone who measured every favor. Then I realized the notebook wasn't a record of generosity. It was a record of a pattern everyone else had asked me to deny. I started a new page. On it I wrote only one line. No more bills paid out of guilt. I do not feel powerful. Powerful sounds dramatic, like I won something. I feel clear. I didn't punish my parents for needing help. I stopped helping after they used my identity, hid my grandmother's letter, and tried to trade my future for Derek's comfort. Some relatives still think I should have signed the waiver, settled the loan privately, and protected my brother from the consequences. They say family problems should stay in the family. But that was exactly where the problem had stayed for years, growing quietly while I paid for it. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.